There are coastal towns in America where you can buy an entire house for what most people spend on a used car. Not a shack, not a teardown. An actual livable home with walls, a roof, and sometimes even an ocean view. These are places where the economy tanked so hard that real estate prices followed it straight into the basement, and nobody bothered to tell them to come back up. Most people think cheap coastal living means Florida condos from the 1970s or Oregon trailers with mold problems. But here's what nobody tells you. Scattered along America's coastlines are actual towns, with actual infrastructure, actual charm, and homes so cheap you'll wonder if someone accidentally added an extra zero. Or more accurately, forgot to add one. These are the kinds of deals that make you check Zillow 3 times to confirm it is real. Spoiler alert, it usually is, but the catch is always interesting. We are counting down 12 forgotten coastal towns where homes sell for under $50,000. Some have architectural character that disappeared everywhere else. Another sits on a river, so isolated your nearest chain restaurant is an hour away. And you learn to cook because DoorDash is not a concept that exists there. And yes, one town technically has waterfront properties available for under $30,000, but the catch is the waterfront is an industrial harbor. Your neighbors include a fish processing plant, and your idea of ambience needs serious recalibration. Think you know where cheap coastal America is? Cool. Let us see if you are ready for places where ocean proximity costs less than a semester of college. But your career options include fishing, tourism, or reinventing yourself as someone who works remotely and has made peace with questionable internet speeds. Like this video if you have ever realized the American dream is alive, just not where anyone is looking. Subscribe because one day you're going to want out of expensive cities. And this channel is basically your relocation research with actual data instead of HGTV fantasies. Let us break it down. Number 12. Port Arthur, Texas. Port Arthur will sell you a house within 5 miles of the Gulf Coast for under $40,000, assuming you can handle living somewhere the refineries outnumber the residents and hurricanes are a regular feature of life. Welcome to Southeast Texas, where the petrochemical industry built a city and then slowly forgot about it. Port Arthur sits right on the Gulf, about 90 miles east of Houston, with around 55,000 people. It is the birthplace of Janis Joplin, which is literally the first thing anyone mentions, because there is not much else to brag about anymore. The town was once a thriving oil port, then refineries automated, jobs left, population dropped, and housing prices collapsed accordingly. But here's the thing. Proximity to water is real. The bones of the town are solid, and you can buy a 3-bedroom house for what most people spend on a vacation. Typical homes here run $35,000 to $45,000 for older properties that need work. Some are genuinely livable immediately. The cost of living is about 18% below the national average. You are 20 minutes from actual Gulf beaches. The job market is limited, mostly refinery work, service industry, or remote options. And you accept that hurricane season is not theoretical. It is a planning requirement. Someone who moved here from California said they bought a house for $38,000 cash, something impossible anywhere they had lived before. The trade-off is the smell from refineries on certain days, the knowledge that evacuation routes are part life, and accepting that culture means driving to Houston. But their mortgage is zero, and they are 15 minutes from fishing the Gulf whenever they want. Port Arthur offers legitimate coastal proximity for prices that seem fictional, assuming you can handle industrial aesthetics, and whether that occasionally tries to kill you. Can we talk about hurricanes? Port Arthur gets hit. Hurricane Rita in 2005, Hurricane Harvey in 2017, and multiple flooding events in between. Living here means flood insurance is mandatory and expensive. It means your cheap house comes with the understanding that every few years you might be evacuating or riding out a storm that rewrites your neighborhood. Your $35,000 home is cheap until you price in storm preparation insurance and the psychological cost of June to November being existential dread season. Picture yourself in a house you bought outright for $40,000. You can walk to a fishing pier. Pelicans fly overhead. Then you are watching weather models in August, filling sandbags, and wondering if cheap coastal living is worth the cortisol. Number 11. Crisfield, Maryland. Crisfield calls itself the crab capital of the world. It will sell you a home near the Chesapeake Bay for under $50,000. Assuming you can handle a town that peaked economically in 1920 and has been coasting on shellfish ever since. Crisfield sits at the southern tip of Maryland's eastern shore with about 2,500 people. It is as far from urban as you can get while still being on the Chesapeake. The town was built on oysters and crabs. Watermen still work the bay, but the industry that supported thousands now supports hundreds. The result is a town with beautiful Victorian homes, waterfront access, and prices so low you will think the market broke. Homes here sell for $30,000 to $50,000 regularly. Many are historic with character you cannot replicate. The cost of living is about 12% below the national average. You are on the water, legitimately. Some properties have docks. The job market is fishing, tourism, healthcare, or remote work. There is no industry left. Crisfield offers small-town coastal charm at prices that reflect economic reality. You are buying into a place that history left behind, but if you want waterfront character and can create your own income, the deal is incredible. One person who relocated described Crisfield as frozen in time, beautiful and cheap, but requiring serious adjustment. The nearest Target is 45 minutes away. Entertainment is what you create. But they bought a Victorian home with bay views for $42,000, something impossible anywhere else. The isolation is real. Crisfield is the end of the road, literally. Route 413 terminates there. You are not passing through Crisfield. You are going there intentionally or not at all. The nearest city of any size is Salisbury, about 40 minutes away. If you need variety, culture, or options, you are driving. Picture yourself on a pier at sunset. The Chesapeake stretches before you. Your home, a 1900s Victorian you bought for $45,000, sits behind you. Blue crabs are cheap and fresh. Then you realize you have driven to Salisbury 3 times this week, because Crisfield has one grocery store, and variety means leaving. Number 10. Eastport, Maine. Eastport is the easternmost city in the United States, and it will sell you a home with ocean views for under $50,000. Assuming you can handle winter so brutal that the phrase coastal Maine stops sounding romantic and starts sounding like a survival challenge. Eastport sits on Moose Island in Passamaquoddy Bay with about 1,300 people. It is closer to Canada than to any significant American city. The town has a stunning historic district, working waterfront, and homes that sell for prices that make no sense until you experience January there. Typical homes run $35,000 to $50,000 for older properties, needing varying levels of work. The cost of living is roughly on par with the national average, but heating costs are brutal. You are on the ocean with legitimate maritime character everywhere. The job market is fishing, aquaculture, tourism, or remote work, with nothing resembling corporate employment. Eastport offers New England coastal beauty at prices reflecting how far you are from everything and how cold it gets. One person who moved from Boston said they bought a sea captain's house for $48,000, an architectural gem impossible to afford anywhere else in New England. But winter is 6 months of cold that penetrates everything. Heating oil costs rival rent elsewhere, and the isolation is profound. The winter is genuinely extreme. Eastport averages below freezing from December through March. Snowfall is significant. The bay sometimes freezes. Your romantic coastal town becomes an endurance test where leaving your house requires layers, planning, and questioning your decisions. The trade-off for cheap housing is heating bills that can hit $500 monthly in darkness at 4 in the afternoon. Picture a historic home overlooking Passamaquoddy Bay. You paid $40,000. Summer is magical with whales visible from shore. Then November arrives. Your heating oil tank needs refilling again. The sun sets at 3:45, and you are layering sweaters indoors while calculating if you save money. Number 9. Algoma, Wisconsin. Algoma sits on Lake Michigan and will sell you a waterfront home for under $50,000. Assuming you accept that your ocean is actually a Great Lake, and your town's economy depends entirely on salmon fishing and whether tourists show up in summer. Algoma is a small city of about 3,000 people, an hour north of Green Bay. It is positioned directly on Lake Michigan with a working harbor, charter fishing industry, and downtown that looks like it has not changed since 1960, because it has not. Homes sell for $35,000 to $50,000 regularly, some with lake views. The cost of living is about 8% below the national average. You have Great Lakes access, which functions as coastal living with freshwater. The job market is fishing charters, small manufacturing, service work, or remote income. Winters are cold and long because Wisconsin does not apologize for geography. One person from Chicago described Algoma as the cheapest waterfront they could find. They paid $41,000 for a house 2 blocks from Lake Michigan. Summers are incredible with fishing, boats, and tourists. Winter is silent, cold, and isolating, but that is when they actually get work done because distractions vanish. Lake Michigan is massive, truly inland sea-sized. You get storms, waves, and shipping traffic. It functions as ocean-adjacent living without salt water. But calling it the ocean will get you corrected by locals constantly. Picture your home near Lake Michigan. You paid cash $45,000. You watch freighters pass. You fish salmon from piers. Then someone asks if you live on the coast, and you have to decide if Great Lakes count or if you are just pretending. Number 8. Newburg, Maryland. Newburg sits on a creek off the Potomac River and offers homes under $50,000. Assuming you can handle a town so small it barely qualifies as a town, and so dependent on water access that your social life involves boats or nothing. Newburg is an unincorporated community in Charles County with maybe 300 people. It is technically suburban Washington, D.C., about an hour south, but feels rural and isolated. The geography is tidal creeks feeding into the Potomac, meaning water access without oceanfront prices. Homes here can be found for $30,000 to $45,000, often older properties or manufactured homes on leased land. The cost of living is about 15% above the national average because you are still in the D.C. economic orbit for goods, but housing is dramatically cheaper. Jobs are commuting to Waldorf or D.C., service work, or remote options. Newburg offers proximity to major employment while maintaining costs that seem impossible for the region. One person who bought here said they got Potomac access for $37,000, a price unimaginable anywhere else near Washington. The commute is real, over an hour each way, but they own outright and launch their boat from their community pier. The commute is brutal if you work in D.C. or even Waldorf. You are looking at an hour or more each way. Traffic on Route 301 is unpredictable. Your cheap housing is subsidized by time spent commuting in conditions that make you question everything. Picture a home on a tidal creek for $39,000. You kayak to the Potomac. Your costs are minimal. Then you're sitting in traffic for 90 minutes, watching your life disappear in 15-minute increments, wondering if cheap rent is worth hours of your life spent staring at brake lights. Number 7. St. Mary's, Georgia. St. Mary's sits on the Atlantic coast near the Florida border and offers homes under $50,000. Assuming you can handle a town that exists mostly to serve as a naval base and where your cultural activities include the base commissary or driving to Jacksonville. St. Mary's has about 18,000 people and sits on the St. Mary's River, which feeds into the Atlantic. The town is adjacent to Kings Bay Naval Submarine Base, which defines the local economy entirely. Homes here run $35,000 to $50,000 for older properties away from the waterfront. The cost of living is about 3% below the national average. You are minutes from the Atlantic via the river and Cumberland Island. The job market is military, service industry supporting the base, or remote work. St. Mary's offers Atlantic proximity at prices reflecting a military town with limited economic diversity. Someone stationed at Kings Bay described buying a house for $43,000, impossible at previous duty stations. The town is small, quiet, and safe, but everything revolves around base schedules. Cultural options mean driving to Jacksonville 45 minutes south. Base town dynamics are specific. When the submarine crews deploy, the town empties. Businesses struggle. When crews are home, everything is busy. Your social life, traffic patterns, and even grocery store crowds are dictated by deployment schedules you have no control over. Picture a home for $40,000 near the Atlantic. Warm winters. Spanish moss everywhere. Then half the town deploys. Your favorite restaurant closes for lack of customers. And you realize your entire community rhythm is controlled by naval operations. Number 6. Lubec, Maine. Lubec is the easternmost town in the continental United States, and it will sell you homes under $50,000 with ocean views, assuming you can handle being so far from everything that Canada is closer than American civilization, and your town's population drops by half in winter. Lubec sits on the Canadian border with about 1,300 people. It is surrounded by water on three sides, with Passamaquoddy Bay and access to the Atlantic. The town is stunning with lighthouses, fishing heritage, and homes selling for $30,000 to $45,000 regularly. The cost of living is roughly average, but heating is expensive because of climate. You are genuinely on the ocean. Some properties have direct waterfront access. The job market is fishing, aquaculture, seasonal tourism, or remote income because traditional employment does not exist. Lubec offers dramatic coastal beauty at prices reflecting extreme isolation and climate. One person who relocated from Portland said Lubec is magical and challenging. They bought a house with ocean views for $41,000. Summer is perfect. Winter is survival with heating costs rivaling rent elsewhere, and the nearest hospital is 50 miles away. Healthcare access is a legitimate concern. The nearest hospital is in Calais, about 50 miles away. For anything serious, you are traveling to Bangor over 2 hours. If you have medical issues or need regular care, isolation becomes a safety factor, not just an inconvenience. Picture a home overlooking the Atlantic. You paid $38,000. You watch whales and fishing boats. Then you need a doctor for something urgent and realize you're 2 hours from adequate care, hoping nothing goes really wrong, because response time could mean everything. Number 5. Port Clinton, Ohio. Port Clinton sits on Lake Erie and offers homes under $50,000. Assuming you can handle a town that is overrun with tourists in summer, dead silent in winter, and economically dependent on whether people want to fish for walleye. Port Clinton has about 6,000 people and sits directly on Lake Erie, with ferry access to the islands. The town is a summer tourist destination for fishing and island hopping. Winter is economically dormant. Homes sell for $35,000 to $50,000, many needing work, but structurally sound. The cost of living is about 10% below the national average. You are on Lake Erie with legitimate waterfront access. The job market is seasonal tourism, service work, or remote income because year-round employment is limited. Port Clinton offers Great Lakes coastal living at prices reflecting a boom and bust seasonal economy. Someone who moved from Cleveland said they bought a house for $44,000, 2 blocks from a lake. Summer is chaotic with tourists everywhere. Winter is silent. They work remotely year-round, enjoying the off-season quiet that drives others away. The seasonal economy is extreme. In summer, the town is packed. Restaurants, bars, and shops are busy. Come November, half the businesses close. The town becomes a ghost town. If you need social interaction, winter is isolating because a population that supports community disappears. Picture a home near Lake Erie. You paid $42,000. Summer is festivals and activity. Then October ends. Businesses close. The streets empty. You are walking through a town that feels abandoned, and you realize you bought into a place that only exists fully 4 months a year. Number 4. Orange, Texas. Orange sits on the Louisiana border where the Sabine River meets the Gulf, and it will sell you homes under $50,000, assuming you can handle a town dominated by chemical plants, where hurricanes are routine and economic opportunity left with the shipbuilding industry. Orange has about 19,000 people and sits in the absolute southeastern corner of Texas. It is an industrial town with refineries and chemical plants defining the landscape and economy. Homes sell for $25,000 to $45,000 regularly. Some are genuinely livable immediately. The cost of living is about 20% below the national average. You are minutes from the Gulf via the river. The job market is industrial work, service industry, or remote options. Hurricane risk is extreme and constant. Orange offers Gulf proximity at prices reflecting industrial surroundings and weather risk. One person who relocated described Orange as shockingly affordable. They bought a house for $33,000 cash. The trade-offs are constant chemical smells, hurricane evacuations every few years, and limited cultural amenities. But they own outright and are 20 minutes from Gulf fishing. The industrial presence is overwhelming. Refineries dominate the skyline. On certain days, the smell is significant. If you need pristine natural beauty, Orange is not your place. You are trading coastal proximity for industrial reality. Picture a home you bought for $32,000. You can drive to the Gulf in 15 minutes. Then the wind shifts, the refinery smell hits, and you are sitting on your porch wondering if cheap housing is worth breathing air that occasionally tastes like petrochemicals. Number 3. Moss Point, Mississippi. Moss Point sits on the Pascagoula River near the Gulf of Mexico and offers homes under $50,000. Assuming you can handle a town still recovering from Katrina, where the economy is shipyards or nothing and poverty rates are high enough that you question if cheap housing is opportunity or warning. Moss Point has about 13,000 people and sits in Jackson County, minutes from the Gulf. The town was hammered by Hurricane Katrina in 2005 and has never fully recovered economically. Homes sell for $20,000 to $40,000, some needing work, others livable. The cost of living is about 22% below the national average. You are near Gulf access via rivers and bayous. The job market is the Ingalls shipyard or service work, with high unemployment otherwise. Moss Point offers Gulf Coast proximity at prices reflecting economic struggle and hurricane history. One person who moved here described it as the cheapest waterfront south they could find. They paid $28,000 for a 3-bedroom house. The neighborhood is rough, poverty is visible, but they are 10 minutes from saltwater fishing and own outright. The poverty rate in Moss Point is significant, nearly 30%. Crime rates are higher than state and national averages. Your cheap housing comes with the reality that you are moving into a community facing real economic challenges, and that affects daily life, safety perceptions, and opportunities. Picture a house you bought for $26,000. You are near bayous leading to the Gulf. Fishing is incredible. Then your car gets broken into. You realize half the houses on your street are abandoned, and you are navigating whether you made a financial decision or a safety mistake. Number 2. Ashtabula, Ohio. Ashtabula sits on Lake Erie and offers homes under $50,000 with waterfront potential. Assuming you can handle a Rust Belt town with economy collapsed so thoroughly that population has been declining for 60 years, and winter is so brutal, you'll understand why people leave. Ashtabula has about 18,000 people and sits directly on Lake Erie in northeastern Ohio. It was once a major shipping and manufacturing hub. Then industry left, jobs vanished, and population followed. Homes sell for $20,000 to $45,000 regularly, some with lake views. The cost of living is about 18% below the national average. You are on Lake Erie with beaches and harbor access. The job market is limited, mostly service work, healthcare, or remote income. Winters are extreme with lake effect snow measured in feet. Ashtabula offers Great Lakes coastal living at prices reflecting economic collapse and climate. Someone who moved from Columbus said they bought a house for $36,000, 3 blocks from Lake Erie. The architecture is incredible, historic homes everywhere. But winter is 6 months of gray skies, snow, and cold that makes you understand depopulation. They work remotely, saving a fortune, but fighting seasonal depression. Lake effect snow is real and relentless. Ashtabula can get over 100 inches of snow annually. Your driveway needs plowing constantly. Driving is treacherous. Your cheap coastal home is buried in snow for months, and you are shoveling while questioning everything. Picture a Victorian home for $34,000, 3 blocks from Lake Erie. Summer is gorgeous with beaches and sunsets. Then November hits. Snow starts. It does not stop until April. You are shoveling for the 8th time in 2 weeks, wondering if cheap housing is worth never seeing the sun. Number 1. Cairo, Illinois. Cairo takes the top spot not because it is coastal in the traditional sense, but because it sits at the confluence of Mississippi and Ohio rivers, and it will sell you waterfront homes for under $20,000, assuming you can handle a town so economically devastated that the population dropped from 15,000 to under 2,000, and where driving through feels like touring American economic collapse in real time. Cairo sits at the southern tip of Illinois where 2 of America's greatest rivers meet. It should be valuable. Instead, it is one of the most abandoned towns in America. The population has collapsed. Historic buildings crumble. Homes sell for $10,000 to $30,000, some literally for the cost of a used car. The cost of living is difficult to calculate because the economy barely functions. You are at the meeting point of 2 major rivers with water access everywhere. The job market is nearly non-existent, with no significant employers remaining. Cairo offers waterfront living at prices reflecting near total abandonment. One person who visited described Cairo as haunting and tragic. Homes are available for $15,000, beautiful historic architecture, but the town is dying. No grocery stores, no services, just abandoned buildings and people hanging on. They considered buying but could not justify living somewhere with no economy, no community, and no future. Cairo offers the cheapest waterfront housing in America because the town itself is vanishing. Your home might cost $12,000, but you are buying into a place where you might be the only person on your block, and revival seems impossible. The abandonment is severe. Entire blocks are empty. Historic buildings collapse. The population is predominantly elderly. Basic services are limited. If you need a grocery store, you are driving 30 minutes to another state. Picture a historic home at the meeting of the Mississippi and Ohio for $15,000. You own it outright. The rivers are majestic. Then you realize you are alone. No neighbors, no stores, no community. Just you and the rivers, wondering if the cheapest housing in America is cheap because nobody else will stay. Be honest. Would you buy a sub-$50,000 coastal home if it meant accepting economic struggle, isolation, or industrial surroundings? Yes, I am that ready for cheap waterfront. Or no, I prefer my coastal amenities and employment. Drop your willingness to compromise below, because we just counted down 12 forgotten coastal towns where housing is shockingly affordable and the catches are always fascinating. Like this video, if you just learned cheap coastal America exists in places you have never heard of. Subscribe, because knowing where affordable waterfront still exists might be your retirement plan or your escape route. These towns are real. Homes are genuinely under $50,000, and most people will never consider them because forgotten means exactly that.